True Talks, True Talks. What's hidden out of sight, I bring into the light, right down to the bone where the truth stands alone. Tell it like it is, if it's her words or his. Speak the truth, leave the rest, cause this is the place where there's no BS. True Talks, True Talks. True Talks, True Talks.
Welcome to True Talks. My name is Jasmine, and today we are talking about shedding light in dark places. Family members causing sexual harm to others. I'd like to read some information about what incest is and patterns that are created in our life when this happens to you. Let's roll the clip, please. Any sexual content, covert or overt, between a child and a trusted individual that damaged the child, whether these contacts included suggestive remarks, pornography, fondling, or acts of sexual aggression or torture, needs to be dealt with assertively. These contacts scar virtually all facets of a victim's life. We are left with little or no self-esteem. At least 1 out of 5 boys and 1 out of 3 girls will be abused before they reach the age of 18. The child's emotional growth will be arrested at the age of the first attack, and we have found the surviving victim won't begin to work on recovery until adulthood, if even then. A number of emotional problems that may emerge from abuse: inability to trust, perfectionism, phobias, anorexia, avoidance of both intimacy and emotional bonding, parenting problems as second-guessing our decisions or avoid being a parent altogether, distrusting our own perceptions, and the worst possible consequence of not working on our own recovery is to see abuse fall on our next generation, and they assume the blame. Today, I am talking with guests that have gone through this. I call them brave and very courageous to talk about this pain. But in this pain, we begin healing. I'd like to introduce my first guest, John Borland. Welcome, John.
Hello, Jasmine.
How are you?
I'm great.
Good. I wanted to just jump right in and ask, what's the first memory you've had of abuse?
The most, 7 years old, pretty much is the best memories I have of abuse. Mm-hmm. And that was physical abuse, emotional abuse of the parents toward me.
Wow, okay. How long did this go on? How long did you go through this?
The physical abuse went until I was 17. And the emotional abuse until, even after I left college, I was still exposed to it, you know, coming home for a short time. Right. And ironically, years after college, my roommates told me that they realized that for 2 weeks after I came back from college, like if I was home for a break, they realized I needed to have space until I got back into myself.
Is that decompressing from the environment?
Yes, yeah. Pretty amazing for 19, 20-year-old guys to recognize. I think, you know.
Good friends to even mention it, to allow that. Have you ever expressed anger or the rage to this person who's hurt you?
No, he passed in 1991.
Okay. How did you process that? Part of the healing?
Through healing processes, I have expressed the rage on pillows, screaming, more than one time. I mean, it took a while for that to be able to come out, and there was a great fear around how powerful that release was going to be, and to be safely in the presence of somebody who created a safe enough space to allow me to go there.
And you found those people?
And I found that person and one particular and others where I could go to that space and let go of all of that rage. And it was like, you know, the dam waiting to break, and afraid that once it broke, the deluge would just wash me away.
Did you ever get scared that you would hurt someone?
No, because it was control. I mean, I tried to control, you know. That was always there.
Right?
Yeah.
My goodness. Now, you've shared how you've had someone to speak to about this, which is a beautiful thing to have as far as support. In confronting the situation, your abuser is no longer here.
Right.
Is there any family member that you were able to get closure with?
Indirectly through an aunt speaking about what the childhood was like, because you grow up in the silence of the environment, and once you step out the door, everything's wonderful. You smile, you carry on like nothing's bad. And so even to sit here and speak about it, there's that underlying, like you're breaking that secrecy. You're not supposed to talk about what happened, and so it as an adult shared with an aunt what went on, and you know the response was, well, why didn't you say anything? And it was like, if 9-year-old John walked up to you and told you this, would you have believed it?
A question that comes up when I was looking at the subject is, why didn't you use your no? Why didn't you say no at that time? It's almost like we don't have a no.
No.
We were raised in that environment and we didn't know that was possible.
Right.
Yeah, so then how do we defend ourselves, or how do we, in a lot of instances, how do we survive?
Right.
Survive it.
And you don't know any different.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Thinking
life.
it's normal, yeah.
Yeah.
How did you survive the years afterwards? When you started getting your memories, how did you get through that?
Well, there was a lot of blank spaces for a lot of time. And then as the memories came back, it was allowing them to come through and believing they were real. and in that allowing became this opening to more recalling, more memories. And for me, it was writing. It was painting, as we'll see. It was really learning to trust someone to share them with. And that's probably the biggest thing, was to find a place, a safe space, and actually speak out to what happened.
Why did you want to do that? Why did you want to step up and start speaking? What helped you to be that brave?
It was time for me to let go of who I had to become to survive. That wasn't me. I created this shell, I created this person who through, you know, it was like through the compression of the environment, I became this non-feeling, non-expressing being who was so far removed from who I am, and I'm still in the process of realizing and finding who I am.
That's a lifelong journey sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
Now, you had mentioned that you heal through writing.
Yes.
And I want to say thank you. You've shared some of those poems with me. Would you be willing to read one?
Sure, yes.
All right, please.
This poem is 7. You left me to be the husband, father, lion tamer. You left me to tame your lion. That is your crazy wife. This is my life. Every second Friday, you parachuted back into my life. Thank you, Dad. It is great to see you, to feel you as you beat me with your hello. Yes, I know I am a failure as a husband, a father. I know I'm a failure as a son, eldest child, student. Do you realize, Dad, I'm only 7?
Every time I read that, it made me very emotional. Thank you. To have a place as a 7-year-old to even be screaming that inside and to try to be heard it's a difficult thing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
As you started the healing process, this is the fun part I know that you've shared with me, is you did art. You did a lot of art in such an expressive way. What did that give you when you would paint?
It gave me a release. For me, there was two big parts. One is to go back to the kid. Here's these paints, these brushes, this white paper, this wall, to be able to do whatever I wanted, whatever came up from within. And to let go of the fact it's not perfect. It's how John paints. It's how John expresses. I'm not an artist. I don't know all the techniques. I put on paper what comes from within me. And sometimes it's like, whoa, like preparing for the show, to go back and look at the old work I did in 2012, which is, almost 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's quite awesome and amazing to look at those and see what I saw back then.
So you wouldn't be signing those and selling those, you think?
I don't know if anyone would really want them.
Well, at this moment, I would like to go ahead and share a video of quite a few of your pieces and let the audience see that. So if we could share that clip, please. Beautiful, different, and expressive. When you did those pieces, there's a very large time frame in there. Do you remember how you healed with each group of paintings?
It's interesting because I was reflecting back on that as I prepared for this gathering, and I try to go in with no thoughts, with no conception of what I want to paint. It comes from, in the moment, whatever emotion comes up is what is to be painted. And so it's a very quiet, there's no music, there's really no talking, and it's you and the paints, and there's moments where you don't know what's next, and you take the brush and you walk over to the paint, and then whatever causes, that's what happens. Mm-hmm. And it shows up on the paintings. Mm-hmm. I did have one instance where I painted a sailboat, and I did have a conscious thought, I want to put a a number on, and I thought, I'll put the number of a date where I had a huge major shift in my life. And my hand painted one date, and my mind immediately, no, that's supposed to be a different date. And I knew enough to pull back, and in my mind, the date that I had was the right date. So as I stood there, maybe for 10 minutes, reflecting on what this date was, the subconscious knew the right date. So you never know what's going to happen. And even now, looking back on one painting that we've talked about, which actually was a dream that came during the painting, and when I was on Vancouver Island, was a dog attacking my abdomen, and I painted that, and it has opened since Sunday, opened more healing within me, looking at a painting that's from 2012.
That's wonderful. Now, do you have children?
Yes, 3.
Okay. They say patterns repeat unless we bring consciousness in. Is this something that you went through with your children at all? Did you have that trigger with them?
I was a lot different, but a lot the same. And I had a conversation with my older son, summer or fall of last year, and he said he realized that what is affecting him came from my parents. And mind you, his grandfather passed when he was 5.
It's huge.
And so to hear him say that was like, wow. And so that inspires me to heal and work through these things. And he knows what I'm doing. I mean, he's on the sideline cheering, and he really, he kind of gets it in a way.
That's beautiful to be able to heal through and have that closure.
Yeah.
Now, I know we have one more poem
Yes.
that I would like you to read. This one's rather magical to me. It's Metamorphosis.
Yes.
I love it. Okay, thank you.
A metamorphosis. I see you, me in the mirror. I wonder what is taking place inside. My mirror reflects back to me a different man. A man who wears the scars of life. A man, me, deep in a metamorphosis. My mirror, my looking glass, does not reflect back to me, at least that I can see whom it is I am becoming. What, who, will this strange and powerful metamorphosis unveil? Days and nights filled with work, with change, work and change I can feel, work and change I catch only in glimpses. I have no idea who is coming forth in this powerful, all-consuming metamorphosis. I do know I will love him, me.
What year did you write that? What was it?
I was looking at the date,
Yeah.
and I actually wrote this metamorphosis November 29th of last year.
My goodness.
And to show how healing works, I wrote 7, January 7th of this year.
Oh my goodness.
So we bounce back and forth between the healing, the processing, the healing.
Wow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Yes. I do have another guest today with us. I would like to introduce her now, Teresa Heist. Hello, Teresa. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Jasmine.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. As our subject begins, it's what we go through, what we've went through as abuse in our childhood. And as I asked John, what was your first memory when abuse began?
I was 8 years old,
Okay.
and my father we were in the bathroom at the same time. I can't exactly remember. I know we only had one bathroom. And he picked me up, and he was playing with me. And he was putting my head in the closet door and kind of throwing me around in circles, and just kept doing that over and over. And I was very confused, and I got nauseous, and I threw up in the bathtub. And I told him to clean it up because he made me do that. And he went ballistic and just beat me up for about 10 minutes. And nothing was broken or anything like that, but I was crying and crying and crying. And I just felt completely out of control. And I feel like I had no power. And I didn't say anything afterward to anybody.
Have you shared it to this day with anyone?
I have now.
Okay.
Well, it happened again when I was 16. A very similar experience happened. I was in the bathroom with my dad, and I was getting ready for a cheerleading event. And I was threw the towels over the shower, and he told me to make them straight. And I said, I'm really in a big hurry right now, and I have to go. And I started to leave, and he just picked me up, and he just started swinging me around the bathroom and slamming me into the mirror. And I was covered in tears and mascara, and my hair was all matted with tears, and I knew I had to be at this cheerleading event very soon. And so I just pulled myself together, cleaned up under my eyes, and walked out. And I never told anybody. And I just pretended like it never happened. I didn't tell anybody till I was 18 years old, and I just quickly told a friend, very quickly, just briefly, because I didn't know how to explain it, and I didn't know to make sense of it. I thought it was my father's way of disciplining me, because my mother always disciplined me, but my father rarely did, except in those two situations, really. And so I thought it was discipline. I thought I'd done something wrong.
How did your friend respond?
She didn't really say much about it, but we were sharing kind of personal information, and I was very shy. And so I don't really remember much happening after that, but I remember opening up for the first time with my girlfriend. It literally took me until 3 years ago, and I'm 50 now, so 47 years old, I finally brought it up with my mother. I brought it up with my counselor. I brought up everything. I went through at the VA, I'm a veteran, I went through a class where I learned how to deal with trauma and to relive it. And we had to write a story of how we saw our trauma. And then after the 9-week class, we wrote the story again. And I realized that what that happened had nothing to do with me. It had to do with him. It was a reflection of him, not me. And I didn't do anything wrong. And it was very empowering to feel that. And the part two to all this is all of my relationships with men from a young age were that you don't say no. You don't stand up for yourself because you might get injured or hit or worse. And so I didn't know how to manage relationships, so I got out of them. Spent 3 years figuring myself out. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
Well, I just realized that once I learned how to respect and love myself, it empowered me. And I had to learn how to set boundaries with people. That was a real challenge for me, but I did. And so I found my peace and my joy in life now. And what's really interesting is I just went to visit my father.
I was going to ask you if you've had
Yeah,
a
I
chance
just got
to-
back 2 days ago, and I had seen him since, but he is very toxic, and he's very verbally abusive as well. So there's physical abuse, but during my entire childhood was verbally abusive, very. It was always putting us down, always, me and my sister and my mother. So I was nervous, and I didn't want to make it a heavy visit. So I went with my love and compassion and held him in that space, and he had not changed. He was his same old self. He was still very toxic and he didn't put me down anymore, but he was putting everyone else down, and his whole world was negative.
How did you handle staying around that?
I just held him in a place of love and compassion, and I really spent time to try to connect with him on a loving level, and it worked. And what I discovered is his negativity was a way for him to escape his own emotional pain. And he would start to cry every now and then. And he had done this before I'd noticed. He'll be talking, and we'll be talking about something maybe personal, a memory, and he'll start to cry, but he'll immediately pull it back out and just go to that place of where he goes back to being negative again. It's kind of like a skill.
Trying to hide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just felt so much more compassion because I understood, because he had a pretty rough childhood as well. It does create a cycle. So I just have to tell you, thank you for having me on the show to tell everybody this story.
Welcome. Oh, definitely. And I know we have a few minutes, but I wanted to ask if you could, in the next show, if you would share a poem.
Oh, I'd love to.
Oh, good, good. Because at this point, I know that with trying to get that closure from your father, do you think you'll go back and visit him again?
I definitely will. And
Okay.
I've spoke with my mother and sister about what's happened.
Right.
And so they're very happy for me, and
Good.
I'll definitely be going back.
Do you expect anything from your father moving forward? Why do you want to visit him again? What are you looking for?
He's getting old, and he's a severe alcoholic and chain smoker. So I don't expect him to live a lot longer. I mean, he might, but I just want to take advantage of these days that we have while we're still both alive. And underneath his toxicity, he has a heart of love, like we all do. And I can see it. And I just know that my experience with him during his visit made him happier. I could feel it.
What happens if he never changes? Is it enough that he's the way he is and he does not change?
After this long, he's 72, he's not going to change. He's never going to change. He was exactly the way he's always been. Exactly.
Like going back in time. Oh my
Exactly. So no, I don't have any expectations of him changing.
goodness. Okay. And you still love him?
I love him. And you know what? I've always loved him, but I had to say I can't be around him anymore to protect my own self. And finally this Christmas, my sister was on the phone with him, and I hadn't talked to him for 3 years. And she said, "Do you want to talk to him?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "Can we start
All right.
over?"
And what I'd like you to do is to continue that sharing in the next show. For now, this is True Talks. We're going to wrap it up. I want to thank RVTV. I want to thank the crew. They do not get paid, they volunteer. And please stay with us for the next show of Shedding Light in Dark Places.
True Talks, True Talks. True Talks, True Talks. What's hidden out of sight, I bring into the light, right down to the bone where the truth stands alone. Tell it like it is, if it's her words or his. Speak the truth, leave the rest, cause this is the place where there's no BS. True Talks, True Talks. True Talks, True Talks.